Everybody, happy July 18th, 2020. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, I'll be talking with the head coach, Jack Petion, who is a part of the Stratford Red Devils program going into now his fourth season. Jack, it's great to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You know, Jack, I think before we get into your time with the program for Stratford, just kind of take me into your background. First, we'll go into the playing side and kind of what got you into the game of football.
So it all started when I was in middle school. My older brother played football. We come from a soccer family, believe it or not. Most of my cousins, some relatives, they're always into soccer. But my older brother played football. He was a good role model, so it influenced me. He literally, I remember the first year he played football, he made me put on his equipment. And he had no equipment. He just ran at me from 10 yards and just tackled me. So, I was just always into football. I like the social aspect of it with your teammates, working together. And, I like the violence of the game, honestly. Like, I think it's a physical game, and it's a game where, like what my coach used to tell me, you can always hit somebody and not get in trouble. But started out for sure with my older brother. Then I played in high school, played at Union High School in New Jersey. Really known for football. They are a great program. They always had great coaches, great players. I've always had just a football background, football knowledge, football people around me. So it was either, you play football or you do something else that you'll probably get in trouble doing. So I always play football every day, almost every day. I lived in an apartment complex. About 50 kids in the neighborhood lives in the same complex around the same age. So every day by 10 in the morning, someone's knocking on your door to play football. And I think that's where I learned how to tackle, how to catch the ball, how to run, just little basic things. But football's always been in my blood. Always had the older guys around me, even that were in high school at the time when I was in middle school. They always came around. They were all state players, D1 players. They wanted to throw the ball with us, just hang out. So, football is just something I've always held close to me.
Now, you mentioned how you played with your friends, and I think that's something that's been lost, especially now with technology and the virus and everything, because people, you can go back to the 50s, the 40s, and even back to even when you were young as well, how being able to play with your friends in a lot of ways is how you got better. I mean, yes, you have trainers and you have people who you could hire to be able to kind of train you one-on-one, but realistically, a lot of the best players and a lot of players in general would just play with their friends. So do you think because of that kind of helped your progression, because you were getting, and you not knowing this, but you were getting reps every day and not even realizing that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, times are different. I mean, I say it all the time to the kids. I'm like, why don't you guys just go outside and play football? Like, they rather, play Fortnite. I don't think it's as popular anymore, but Warzone is the big thing now that I hear about. So that's lost in a lot of ways where, they call you, they text you, they email you. Before, you had to show up at the person's house. If you're going to call, you're speaking to someone's parent or someone in the family. So most kids used to just come by your house and knock on the door, greet the parents or the siblings, whoever's at the house. And you know what? Let's play football. We played baseball, we played football, we played basketball. We played anything we could really think of, anything with a ball. We just ran around and had fun. So I think that was big. I mean, these days it's a little different, obviously. In a lot of ways, I do think some players are ahead of us. I mean, I'm not that old. I'm 30 years old. So in a lot of ways, I do think a lot of players are ahead of us because it seems more specialized. Like if they're out there playing football, they have the cones out, they have all these materials to get better, training materials, they have trainers. So I just think it's a little different. In a lot of ways, I do think it will benefit them more than us in long term, because you even on social media, you look around, guys posting videos all the time of working out. I don't think we were doing that. I didn't have a personal trainer. Most of my friends didn't have personal trainers. We didn't bring cones outside. We just ran around and had fun.
Oh, so you're telling me you weren't like Cam Newton and posting videos every day of like music blasting and like swearing and talking to yourself?
Oh, now we weren't there yet. We didn't even have the iPhones until I was in high school. We had the T9, and then the sidekick was big, just flipping. You're able to text like a keyboard, a smaller keyboard. So, it's different, but that's just the way of the world now. It's an influence. I think it trickled down from, the NFL. They have to promote themselves. Then, college, the recruiting, they have to promote themselves. And now high school, it's a beast. There's a lot of different schools, a lot of different players that want to go to different schools for different reasons. And a lot of it is promotion. So it's big. You got to promote your players. You got to promote your program.
I like to hear too. You're only 30. I'm only 27, and I think you're my fifth or sixth guest that I've had on that's a head coach of a football program that's young. I know Coach Ty Jenkins at Bunnell. He's one of the younger coaches. Pat Miller at Norwalk. He's a young coach. I've had a lot of very good young coaches, and I think that's great to see that. And there's nothing wrong with having older coaches and seeing that part of football, but it's good to see that the younger coaches are having an opportunity, especially to show like, hey, this is the way football is being played now, and you guys can connect with the players maybe a little bit better.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's big. I mean, I don't think age necessarily has to do with getting a job. Like you said, you had multiple coaches, but I think the experience, having the right coaches on your staff working with you, and having just a work ethic and the culture in your program with not only the coaches and players, but just the staff, like talking about the ADs, talking about the principal, the teachers. It just needs to be full alignment, and that's something that we are working towards at Stratford. We're not all the way there yet, still building a culture. Like I said, this is going into year 4. So I think all these players know who I am now. They've only had me as a head coach, so they understand what the expectations are and how we want to carry ourselves. So I think it's just big on just having a good culture. It's definitely harder as a younger coach to have a good culture, but at the same time, you're young and you can kind of create your own thing, especially at a program that the tradition is not necessarily all the way there.
And a number of those coaches that I mentioned also played college football. You had an opportunity to do that. Now, you did not only play at one place or two places, you played at multiple places. Why don't you tell the people where you played?
So after high school, I had a couple of opportunities to go play at the Division II level, Division III level as well. I had some walk-ons for FBS, FCS programs, but I chose to try to earn a scholarship, a full scholarship, Division I. Chasing the dream. My older brother played Division I. I was trying to be like him in some ways. So I ended up going to Nassau Community College. Out of Nassau Community College, I did transfer to Cheney. Both those places, especially Nassau. Nassau is probably the best experience just because I was a defensive lineman, offensive lineman in high school. So I was around 250 pounds. And when I went to Nassau, the workouts were real. Okay. So in a matter of 3 months, I was down to 217 pounds. So by the end of the season, November came, I was 217 pounds. At that point, that is when I decided to play linebacker. I did have a great experience at Nassau. I had great coaches with a lot of D1 experience from coaching as well as playing. Played with a lot of players that went Division I, Division II scholarships. But, I just think that experience was something that I needed. So after that, I did go to Cheney, which is a Division II program out in Pennsylvania. It's HBCU, and it's also part of the PSAC. I went there for a year. Like I said, my older brother played Division I. His offensive line coach ended up getting a head coaching job at Cheney, so I just felt the trust there. So I did go to Cheney for a year. After Cheney, I went to Southern Connecticut State for my last 2 years, and since then I've been a Connecticut person.
Yeah, and at Southern, I mean, what was it? Your senior year, you had 101 tackles, or something like 101 total tackles. But your senior year, you were second on the team with 63. So it seemed like wherever the football was, Hedion was going to be there, and he was going to make you pay.
Yeah, I mean, just at a young age, I had great coaches, and I just always had a knack for trying to find a ball carrier. It was more of a see ball, get ball thing. I didn't really understand the game until college. Like, I didn't know how much was involved until college, and I think part of that was playing linebacker instead of being a lineman. You just see like the whole field, like what's happening in front of you, what's happening behind you. But yeah, I was fortunate to be able to play. I had a good senior year, but we had some great players on that team my senior year, like we had a couple All-Americans, a couple All-Conference players, but I was just fortunate to be in a good situation. I just, took advantage of my opportunity.
And I want to hit on that real quick because you mentioned about how you really didn't know the game of football per se until basically you got to college. And I feel like that happens with a lot of football players that I've talked to from the high school level and then when they go off to college. And I asked them, like, did you learn anything? They're like, oh, the college football level, 10 times different, more difficult compared to high school. So for you, what did you notice as far as, I know probably the training part was different as far as, the regimen as well, but schematically, what was so much different about it?
Just from high school to college, I will say, it's a business, they're recruiting you. So they're investing in you and they have expectations that they want you to follow. And if you can't follow those expectations, we're going to look for somebody else, quite frankly, because how many other kids do we know in high school that wants to be in your shoes, have a scholarship, play college football. So I just think it is a business side of it, but schematically, in high school, most high school coaches, my high school coaches, they try to keep the game simple for their players when they're coaching. They have their meetings, like we have our meetings now, we're in a meeting for hours, just going over scheme, everything that player needs to know to perform properly. But when it comes down to the coaching aspect, you try to water it down a little bit. You want to give the key information on what you need to do to have success, for that player to have success. But it's more positional. So you have your positional coaches, then you have your coordinators, and then you have your head coach. So it's just now it's trickled down to the positional coaches. So it's a little less information that needs to be said to the player. At least that's what I think early on. So I just think in high school, they put us in a position, they trained us year round. They made sure we were in the best athletic shape possible. But when it came to coaching, they simplified it. They made it easier for us in a way. But when they got to college, like I said, it's a business. You're getting tested on different things. You're practicing a lot faster. There's ones going, twos going, threes going as far as repetition. So you're being evaluated every day. And if you're a one today, you could easily be a two tomorrow, and vice versa. If you're a three, you could be a one tomorrow. They're filming everything in college a lot more, like everything. So you're just always being evaluated. So I just think schematically in college, if you don't know it, they'll put somebody that does in front of you.
Yeah, it sounds like if you can't make the play and you don't get what's going on, go sit on the bench until you do.
Yeah,
Somebody will take your spot.
Because we all know college coaching as well as cutthroat.
Yep.
They're not really blaming the players; they're blaming the head coach. So the head coach got to put the best player out there.
At the end of the day, it's the wins and losses. It's a little
Yeah.
bit different than high school where you can get away with it for, a couple years, maybe 8, 9 years because you're trying to rebuild a program in some sense. But for college, unless you're being told that, hey, you're going to be here for a while because you got to rebuild this, at the end of the day, wins or losses, they tell the story.
Yeah.
Now, when did you start getting the coaching bug? Because I know, and the amount of people that I have talked to in the coaching realm, they tell me at different points. Some told me in college. I know the head coach at Holy Cross, Mike Giampertuzzi, when he got hurt when he was playing in college, I think he said the first practice or first week, he immediately was like, all right, I want to stay in this game. So that's how he got into coaching. For you, because you played in multiple places and you had success, I almost feel like the coaching bug was kind of in you, but in some ways didn't come until towards the end of your career. Am I wrong?
No, you're 100% right. I just I've always since high school loved the game of football, loved athletics in general. So I've always tried to help out during high school. I was one of the captains, so I considered myself a coach on the field. So I always try to help out the younger guys. We had a team of 120 players, so all those guys aren't getting reps in practice in high school. So when we're in those positional groups, I always try to talk to the younger guys. I was a multi-year starter. I'm like, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that. So I just felt like it came natural. Then when I got to college, every summer I was a camp counselor. So as a camp counselor, it was a specific program, like one of the camps where there's an academic portion in the beginning and then there's an athletic portion at the end. So while I was playing in the summers, I would work out and then I'll go be a camp counselor. So I just think it came naturally, especially towards the end of my career. I was trying to stay around football. I was trying to continue my career. That didn't happen. So I was like, hey, what's the way that I could stay close to football and help influence kids? And it just started with teaching. So I got a teaching degree. Okay. And then with that teaching degree, I was like, hey, that's going to allow me to coach. So it just kind of worked out that way. But, I've always wanted to mentor the youth. I just feel like there's, as we all know, there's so much going on in this world. There's a lot of things they don't teach you in school. And just, it's just another way to access children outside of school where you could kind of be yourself a little more. And, you could teach them about life because at the end of the day, to this day, I feel like there's a lot of things I didn't know about until, not even talking about football, just about life. I didn't know about until the past 5 years. And a lot of that came from being older and just the experiences that I had. And, I try to share those experiences with the youth because this world in general, it's a tough world to be in, but, you got to know how to navigate it.
Especially now with what's going on between, you have the Black Lives Matter movement, you have the virus. I mean, a lot of things are kind of just coming all into one. And a lot of coaches that I've asked about kind of like, how are you talking to your players? Because it's not like you're just talking to one specific group. You have, kids from all different sides of the aisle, just like when you go to the grocery store, you got aisle 1 to aisle 16, 17, 18, kind of the same way with football players or your program. I mean, you got kids from everywhere, from all different sides and such. So it's like, I think being able to have the experience like you have, coach, with, yourself growing up and, I think that really helps as far as kind of helping prepare these young men, even if the wins and losses or the wins are not there, still preparing them for, being husbands, being great, workers and so on and so forth. I think is very, very big.
100%. I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Coaching is coaching. Like, you're not just coaching football, you're coaching life. And one of the biggest things my coach told me when I was a senior in high school was just how to handle adversity. So that's a big thing I try to tell our players is how to handle adversity. Like right now, today in life, we're facing adversity. You got to figure out how to get over that hump and what you can do to help. And I just think that it's a real experience for everybody, and it's a wake up call, and hopefully things get better. So and with my players, we talked about it early on when things first started happening with the shutdown, Black Lives Matter. That was around the time as well when we started our virtual coaching. So we had that conversation, and we let the players, if we opened the floor, if they needed to share something or they felt they needed to say something, we opened the floor and we kept it real with each other.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we could disagree. I think that's a part of life. Not everyone's going to agree with everything, but I think having discussions and being able to talk and just have the talking aspect, I kind of feel like, especially with this virus, it's a lot of, okay, if I don't agree with you, I'm just not going to listen. You
Right,
can't
right.
have that. You got to be able to talk.
Yeah, you
That's
got
the
to be able to listen. Yeah.
communication.
Exactly. That's what it comes down to, is communication in all facets of life.
Now, coach, you talk about, and I know you mentioned about the difficulties as far as what's going on in the world and everything. Your football program right now as well with Stratford, it's been a little bit difficult. I know the wins have not been there, and hate to ask this, but the lack of winning. And you've had success. I mean, you talked about Northwest Catholic. You were the DC at Newington. I mean, you've had success wherever you've been, coach. But coming here, did you know that it was going to take time to be able to kind of rebuild this thing?
Absolutely. And that's part of the reason I came to Stratford. First off, Stratford's a great place to be as far as a town, as well as the high school. There's a lot of diversity in the high school. Stratford is one of the few places in Connecticut that is very diverse. So I think our kids already are used to being around different types of people, which is good because that's what the world is when you get out in the work field. But as far as winning and losing goes, like you said, we haven't had much success in my first 3 years. I came into the job knowing that it was a rebuilding place. There were 2 winning seasons in the past 12 to 13 years when I was first applying to the job. And I was looking at that, and I was like, where do I see myself fitting in, and how can I help these student athletes succeed on the football field and outside of the football field. So going in, I knew it would be tough. I spoke to a lot of mentors. I spoke to my guys at Southern a little bit. I spoke to the places that I've been, the coaches that I know, and it's a rebuilding job. And it, 100% of the time, it is tough, and they told me it will be tough. And you know, that's why every day, you know, I'm telling the kids like, you know, it's not pretty right now. You know, we can see it. We struggle to practice regularly. You know what I mean? There's a lot of players that's never played football before. Like this past year, we had 14 kids that were freshmen and sophomores that were starting in varsity game. So it was a very good JV team, but you know, we just weren't varsity ready, and that's the truth. And I told them all year long, like, you guys are young. We're building something here. There's going to be people. There's going to be schools that come and try to pluck you, but you know, you got to stick with the course. You know, in order to build, you got to stay together, and that's part of it. But I think like we just lost every game this past season. I think that was a great learning experience, not only for myself, not only for coaches, but for players, because um, I stress a work ethic like no other. So in my first 3 years, I'll tell you right now, my first year I got the job late. They didn't have to work out, or they didn't have a full off season. We didn't have a weight room, so they didn't have a full off season. So that first year, they came in about 50, 60 players deep. All right. Then we had our first true off season. We were 4-6 my first year. Then we had our first true off season. All right. And that off season, I told them it's going to be a 12-month program. So going into year two after that off season, we probably had only 40 kids on the team, you know, because that's just the
Hmm.
type of football I know. Like how to run a program is you have to be committed year round if you want to be a good program one day. If you want to be elite, it has to be continuous, you know. So um, I put my foot down. I'm not changing who I am. I mean, there's obviously certain situations that you have to be lenient with on a case by case basis, but I put my foot down. So, like I was saying, that year too, we had about 40 players. We didn't do well at all. We had a 1-9 season. We had three quarterbacks. We went through three quarterbacks through the first four games of the season. We played a beast of a schedule. We had in the first four games, we had Brookfield, we had Newtown, we had Sheehan. So we got banged up in a lot of ways. So uh, after that season passed, again, all season, it's going to be a 12-month program. Like if you want to be a part of this program, I need to see your work ethic. So year three, last year we had 25 players in the program. So as far as grades 10 through 12, we had 20 players in the program. So we brought up some freshmen for last season, about three freshmen, just to have more numbers. So again, it's about you know, a work ethic that I'm trying to instill in these student athletes. You know, I love my players. I'm always going to push them. I'm always tough on them. But again, what has been done in the past is not going to sustain consistent success. So I'm going to tell you what I know about football, and I'm going to run a football program how I know how to run it. So if you want to be a part of this football program, you need to put the work in. But you know, this year coming in, January, February, up until now, we got 60 players in the program, grades 10 through 12. So, you know, there are guys that want to be there. So I'm happy about that. I am hoping there is a season because I think we could do some special things this year. I think this can be a turnaround season for us. You know, just I think the foundation has finally been laid. It took 3 years to lay a foundation, but you know, we have everything that we need. We're getting a new weight room finally in October. So we've kind of been making it work these past 3 years without a true weight room. So again, all credit to my kids and coaches because you know they work. If they're there, they work their asses off. So I'm always going to support them, and I'm always going to be there for them. But it's been tough, and I know it's going to be tough. But it takes time to build a program, and that's part of the commitment going in. I was like, I'm not expecting to have great success year one or year two, but you know, eventually when you have um, kids that's been coached by you only in high school, you want to see that tide start to turn.
Has it been tough as far as trying to sell? And I'm sure it hasn't because you seem like a very passionate guy who can kind of get people to buy in. But has it been a little bit tough as far as the community aspect? Because I know, especially in high school football, it's about selling the program to the community because if they want their sons to be able to play football, you know, that's how it kind of starts. And then it goes through the minor leagues, you know, Pee Wee and all that other stuff as far as kind of going through the system. So how has that been for you?
Um, it's been interesting. I mean, we do have a great Pop Warner program as far as there's a bunch of athletes in our Pop Warner program. But again, they're good athletes. So with that being said, good athletes are going to get noticed. So there's schools that, as they should, because they're football coaches too, and they want the best for their program. They try to recruit our kids, but in a lot of ways, I tell the kids, I mean, do what's best for you. Like I said, in those first 3 years, I probably lost 5 to 6 players that started varsity for us. But I always tell the kids, do what's best for you. Like, I'm going to be here. I'm going to run it how I know how. Um, I hope that whatever you're looking for, you find and that it equates to success. But just make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into and you know what the outcome is, and people are being real with you. I feel like a lot of people aren't being real with kids, and that's frustrating for me. Just coming from my background, you're just looking at these kids, or outside people are looking at these kids, and they're just thinking about what they could do for them. It's not about that. It's about growing that person, getting them to become, like I said, better men, better people in society. So I think our Pop Warner system is great. They have a lot of great athletes, but unfortunately, not all those kids come to Stratford. Some go to Bunnell, some go to other private schools that are nearby. But again, do what's best for you.
So you're always in competition with Coach Jenkins then, Coach Ty
Yeah, you
Jenkins.
can say that. I mean, this is his second year.
Uh-huh.
You can say that.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's all right.
Oh, he's just okay. Oh,
Nah,
geez.
he's all right.
I can see the competition already brewing. I can see the
Nah,
rivalry.
nah, he's doing a great job, phenomenal job. Like I see what he does for the program. Like he's promoting the hell out those kids.
He loves his kids. He
Yeah,
really does.
he's doing a good job. I mean, he's going into year 2. So what he's been able to do in 1 year, not even from a one loss. Again, I'm not even talking about one loss, just promoting the program and getting more kids involved. I think he is doing a great job. I'm not going to say like we're in competition with each other, but we're doing what we can for our kids, putting them in the best situation.
Hey, healthy rivalry. There's nothing wrong with that once you step onto the football field. Nothing like good
Yeah,
competition.
absolutely. Yep.
Now, I have a question for you. Let's say I have a son, 8th grade, has a chance to go to a couple schools. He's a quarterback, right? And he has
Yep.
interest in your program. How would you sell your program to my son?
So 8th grade quarterback. So first off, we should know who he is before he's even in 8th grade, especially if he's going to be a quarterback. Just through his youth system, because like I said, we have a great Pop Warner system. But again, I didn't mention we do get players from the Bridgeport Chargers as well as the Pal Bridgeport. I think they're the Raiders. So they are Stratford kids, like they live in town, but sometimes they just play Pop Warner somewhere else. And a lot of that was because of there was no unlimited in Stratford, meaning that basically if you're over a certain weight, which is all our linemen usually, then you can't play football until you get to high school. Last year they did change that where they started unlimited. So I could see that change right now because we have freshmen now that have been coming to summer workouts. We have at least 10 linemen, and every single one of them, they played football before. That's the first time that's ever happened. Like 3 years, I've been getting freshmen about 13, 15. Last year was our biggest class. We had 30 freshmen. But usually only, like I can count on one hand how many have played football prior to arriving to Stratford High School. So I do think, Pop Warner having unlimited is a big deal because now we have more experienced players. But to answer your question, we should know who that player is as a quarterback. I do go to Pop Warner games when time allows. It does get a little hectic with a baby now. So if we're recruiting him to our program, we're going to tell him like what we have to offer, like what we do 12 months. We're going to give him an example. Like this is what January looks like. This is what February looks like, and so on. We're not going to talk too much about scheme. We're going to talk about what we can do for you, how we can make you a better person, how we could develop you. All right. So it's not necessarily scheme in my eyes. Not that you said that, but it's about how are they going to develop in their 4 years as their head coach. And if it works for them, if it sounds like something that they're interested in, then they should pursue it. But, some coaches would tell them in 8th grade, hey, you're going to be this D1 player. You're going to get all these scholarships. And then 4 years later, that didn't happen. So it's about developing players. And I tell them how they're going to be prepared for life because not everybody's going to play football. Like this past year, I had 6 seniors on my roster. 3 of them never played. two of them didn't play before. So I had one kid who played for me for those 3 years, but the two of them were from the soccer team as well, and they ended up starting.
Oh,
So,
wow.
that's just how low our numbers were. But again, none of those seniors were interested in playing football. They just football wasn't their love, it wasn't their passion, it's not what they saw themselves doing after high school. So what are we talking about if I'm just going to say, oh, I'm going to promise you this scholarship, but that's not what you're interested in. So you got to know your players, you got to know what their interests are, and everybody's different. So you tell me what your goal is, and I can tell you how I can support that goal. So all of our seniors that did graduate, they're not playing football, but they're going to college, which is at the end of the day what you want, because they're being set up for success, whether it's college, whether it's the military, whether it's the work field. But there's a plan in place for them after high school.
I'll have to keep that in mind. If I have a son and I ever live in Stratford, Coach Petion, Stratford Red Devils. I have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, it depends though. You got to live in the district. You might go to Benell.
That's true. Well, see, I never played football. I wasn't big enough as far as this. I had the height, but never had, because my dad played football in Watertown, because
Okay.
I'm originally from Watertown, and he was a big football player, one of the most popular ones, and supposedly he was good. I don't know if he was actually good, but I didn't get that gene. I had the soccer and baseball, but if my son ever wants to play football, I would never tell him no, because I know a lot of parents are worried about the concussions and CTE, and I feel like the media, and I know we're getting off subject, but I feel like since we're talking about it, I feel like the media and others try to push the narrative to scare the parents, to scare them away from this game. But I truly feel like football has so much to contribute to as far as preparing these young men, like we've talked about, helping these young men, like I've talked to a bunch of coaches, because a lot of times football is really all they have. And if you take that away, you kind of hurt their path towards what could have been in a very linear way, in a very positive direction.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, you have opportunities out there. Just even last week, just because you brought it up, last week I had 5 or 4 Pop Warner players working out, and they're all Stratford High School district kids. But I'm asking them, like, where are you going to high school next year? They're going into 8th grade now. I'm like, where are you guys thinking about going? They all told me 4 places that aren't Stratford. And I asked them one question. I said, why? And they said, it's the quickest way out of Connecticut. And that I thought about that. I've still been thinking about it since. And I'm just like,
Stuck with you.
football's not the only way out of Connecticut. You know what I mean? Like, that's part of why I coach. Like, they need to know, like, you can do more things than just play football. Don't get me wrong. Like, football worked out for me. I obviously have my heart, my passion into football, but there's more opportunities. There's more avenues that you can do something else other than just playing athletics, and a lot of it comes down to exposure, because I'll tell you now, when I was growing up, nobody told me I could do anything but play football. They're like, oh, you're a good football player. You're going to go to the NFL, or you're going to go D1. Like, there's just football, football, football. But it's never like, oh, you got good grades. Oh, you could do this, you could do that. It's just like, it's exposure. And a lot of it is just what people know, and they're used to it. But if you don't got that exposure, then you don't know anything else. So I try to help them get the exposure. I try to tell them about different things you can do, but go be a doctor, go be a lawyer. Football, basketball, baseball, that's not the only thing out there. Use it as a tool if you're that good to get a scholarship, okay, but you need to have a plan B, because not everybody's going to play professional after that.
See, this is why I like talking to different coaches, because you kind of helping me see in a different light, because I was seeing just, okay, sports is the only way out. But you got to remember, it's not the only way, because there's academics, there's other things that get involved with that. Sports are great if you can get out of there one way, but I think being able to kind of instill in these young men that sports is not the only direction. You have academics, there you have I don't know, band. I mean, there's other things that you can do to help. If you want to get out of Connecticut or get out of wherever you are, you can, but it doesn't have to be just sports. And I think that's a great way that you put it.
And then like I said, it comes down to, like, they have the roadmap in a sense. Like, when it comes to sports, they know if I get a scholarship, I know where I can end up. But you tell them they could be a doctor or lawyer, they don't know the process in between. Like, they just know, oh, I got to go to school forever. I mean, that's how I thought at least. But I ended up, like, going to school longer anyway and still getting more certifications. So if I knew what I knew back then, I'm just saying, like, I just think I didn't have that exposure. So I want to make sure kids know there's other ways to be successful in life.
Stratford's in the right place, I think. Even though the wins are not there, I think Coach Petion, you seem like you have the right, you have the goods, you have the ingredients. You're a role model, I think, for these young men, both on and off the field. And I feel like eventually, things will start to turn around. You just have to continue on doing what you're doing, and these young men have to continue to buy to what you're selling. But I think bright futures are ahead for the program.
Absolutely. I think it looks great right now. That's why, in a lot of ways, it would be nice if there was a safe way that we could play this year and the kids could get out there. But it's out of our hands. We kind of just have to wait and see. But definitely, even what you're doing, I appreciate what you're doing because like I've been in Connecticut now for 10 years, and I don't think there's that much exposure to athletes in the state. And obviously, there's people that are doing a great job of promoting Connecticut high school sports, but there's not enough people helping. You know what I mean? Just because there's a lot of people that are not even known about, but they're good athletes or they have good stories, not just athletics. But I don't think there's a lot of exposure from them in that sense too to the media.
Anything I can do to help, coaches, players alike, I tried my best to try to do what is my job because I'm a broadcaster, but obviously not broadcasting games. So I'm like, you know what? If I can't broadcast, let me do something that helps the state that I'm in because I know that because of the virus and not being able to go to camps and not being able to showcase your talent, you have young men who are not able to show what they can do so they can get a scholarship or they can get seen and have an opportunity. And for coaches, and I've always felt like this even when I first started broadcasting, coaches do not get the justice they deserve because at the end of the day, like we talked about in college, it's about wins and losses, especially for some of the big time programs. It's about wins or losses, but they don't look at the bigger picture like yourself. Coach DeVellis at West Hill. We mentioned Ty Jenkins at Bunnell. I mean, there's so many. I could go on and on and on about coaches who I feel like deserve more, but don't get the credit because they're not the big name or the program is not sexy or they don't win a lot. I mean, there's more to that. And I felt like this is something that can help push that and kind of push the narrative.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, me personally, I think I'm somewhat of a quiet guy. Like I'm big, like I try to promote my players, but like it's never going to be about me. Like I'm not going to talk about my football career that much. I'm not going to talk about what I did and what I didn't do. I want to know what our kids want to do and how I can help them get there because that's what it's about. Like my time's passed. I'm wiping baby butts now.
Well, Coach Petion, I really do appreciate you coming on. We've just about run out of time, but hey, you're welcome to come back on anytime. And when, and not if, but when the program starts to turn around, I'd love to get you back on so you can talk about, hey, program's turning around, we're doing well, and this is why, X, Y, and Z.
100%. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime. Now, I'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent, and I'm on a journey to find them all. Have a good one, everybody. Stay safe.